Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Miraculous Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Trolsey, and I'm so excited you're here. Freedom in Christ is a gift that's ours for the taking, yet in so many areas of life, it's easy to feel stuck. We all need reminding of how the gospel frees us to live abundantly in every area of life. So whether you're at home or on the go, I hope you'll hang around for an uplifting conversation that will encourage you to walk in the miraculous freedom you've been given. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have Muhammad Al-Harthi on the podcast, and I think you're really going to love our conversation. Muhammad is a beekeeper, a scuba diver, a computer science teacher, and he also happens to be my husband. In this episode, we talk about forming habits, legalism versus grace, and overcoming perfectionism. We also get to hear how one of Muhammad's New Year's resolutions turned into a 3-year habit. Let's jump in. Hey, Muhammad, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. I'm really excited to interview you, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on our topic today.
Yeah, this is exciting. I'm glad to be your first guest ever.
Oh, thanks. Okay, before we jump into our conversation, I want to ask, what other than the Lord is giving you life right now? It can be serious or silly, big or small, but tell me something that's giving you life right now.
That's a really good one. Really what giving me life right now is our daughter. She is a lot of joy, a lot of fun, and handful at the same time. But just the joy and fun is very overpowering to all the negative things. So it's really amazing to have a little baby at the house.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite things that she's doing right now?
Right now, the way she say dada.
Oh, yeah. That's so cute.
Mm-hmm. And also that she can walk now and get into everything, which is tiring, but at the same time, it's like, hey, this little human is moving around and doing things. So this is fun. Like, I can't wait until I start teaching her how to do things with me and things by herself too.
Yeah. Well, at the time we're recording this, she's not actually walking, but she is moving a lot.
Yes. Sorry. I meant like getting into things by walking.
Yeah. So yeah, she's 9 months old. She's definitely crawling and cruising, pulling up on everything and gets stuck and can't get back down. So that's what we're currently struggling with is, pulling up in the crib and not being able to get back down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. She's a lot of fun. Well, that was really sweet. Thanks for sharing that. And she loves you so much.
I know. Yeah.
Okay. So for our listeners who may not know, but hopefully you just figured it out that we're husband and wife. So
surprise.
Yeah. So this is Muhammad Al-Harthi, my husband, and we're going to talk about setting goals and New Year's resolutions today. So today is actually New Year's Day when we're recording this. So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everyone listening.
Yeah, so they'll be about a week into January by the time they hear this. But we thought it would be fun to sit down and talk about New Year's resolutions and goals.
Yeah.
So here we go. Have you ever successfully set a New Year's resolution?
The one time I actually remember it. It happened just one time in my entire life. Yeah. It was when I decided not to drink soft drink anymore.
Oh, I vaguely remember this.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And I went 5 years. No, wait,
what?
No, that's a stretch. It wasn't 5. Actually, I went 3 years without soft drinks.
Really?
I did, yeah.
What year was that?
I want to say 2018, 19, and 20. And then I went back to drinking them. Or maybe 16, 17, and 18, something like that.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I decided to quit cold turkey because I used to have a lot of soft drinks. Like I would finish a case of Mountain Dew in a day. Yeah, it was more than I needed.
Like cans or
cans,
bottles?
Yes, cans.
12 cans?
In a day, yep.
In a day?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Did you not have that in Oman? Were you like going crazy with it because it was new here?
Oh, no, we had it in Oman.
Oh.
The thing is, the one here doesn't taste the same. They don't use the real sugar. So we had to buy, it's Mountain Dew, but it's a specific edition that has sugar in it. It's like a white can. Huh. And it was really good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been if you were drinking that much of it. Mm-hmm. I used to love drinking that. And I remember drinking it on vacation once. And my mom was trying to do my hair. I was like 11 or 12. And I was so hyper and I was giving her such a hard time. And she was like, you're not ever drinking that again.
Yeah, it's probably for the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you successfully set one and then carried it on past the year. I feel like that's pretty
Yes.
rare.
Oh yeah, that's very rare.
Yeah. How did you do that successfully?
I just didn't buy it, because I had the control over purchasing it or not. And I didn't really, Mountain Dew is not a very common drink here in the South. Like you wouldn't see it in parties and things.
Yeah,
or
that's true.
gatherings, not to say parties. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but if you go over to a friend's house, they're probably not going to offer you Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they would offer you Coke or Dr. Pepper or something like that. Sprite.
Yeah.
But not Mountain Dew. So I didn't have to drink it. And I actually cut all soft drinks in general, even like Coke, Sprite, all of those. I didn't have any of them. Yeah. So it was hard at the beginning, I would say. But at one point, water tasted really good.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I liked water.
So did you set that resolution because you knew you had a problem?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did somebody help you see that, or did you just realize it yourself?
No, I realized it myself because I knew it was a problem, but I just one day, I honestly, that's the only time I actually decided on something and I did it, and I don't really have a clear idea why.
Yeah.
I actually followed through and didn't give up or something like that. It was weird, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, because you said that you just didn't buy it, but I mean, the temptation to buy it was there, I'm sure. Or it is for most people, I would say.
It is. I mean, it is.
Like when you give something up and then you pass it in the grocery store, you're like, oh man, I really want that. So you had some strong willpower.
I think I did at that time of my life, yeah.
Have there been years where you have set a resolution, but you haven't followed through with it?
Oh yeah, every single year beside that one. And I'm sure I've set other resolution in that year I totally ignored.
Okay, can you give us some examples of things you've set but haven't followed through with?
Yeah, like one time we went to the Grand Canyon for a hiking trip. And then after that trip, I was like, I'm going to hike a mile a day just to practice because it was very tiring.
Like for the next year?
For the next year, yeah. We hiked the whole thing from like top to bottom and then back to top in one day. Mm-hmm. Took us over 12 hours to finish the whole thing.
Was that with you that time?
No, that was in 2014.
Okay,
so that
I
was
went next year.
Yeah, my New Year resolution for 2015. And I did not walk a mile that year. I mean, willingly. I know I walked a mile because I had to do things, but not just because to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made the difference? Like, why was giving up Mountain Dew easier?
I guess it's because something that I had not to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Besides something new, I have to establish a new habit. I just dropped something.
Okay. So maybe that's part of the key is like, it's easier to stop doing something than to pick up something new to form a new habit.
I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
And people usually say replace a habit with a different habit, which works. But for me, it was just like cutting out drink. I guess I maybe replaced it with drinking water.
Okay. So yeah, you did replace it in a sense.
In a sense, yeah.
Interesting. How do you think people form new habits successfully?
I think it's by finding something you enjoy or something you want to do and then being consistent.
Okay.
Yeah. If you one day just woke up and decided, I'm just going to skip it today, you're going to skip it tomorrow, you're going to skip it the day after tomorrow, you're going to skip it in the weekend, and the cycle will just keep going.
Yeah.
And then you will realize that you did it once and never done it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's how most people, including myself, New Year resolution goes.
Yeah. I think having an accountability partner or somebody to help you keep on track with the goal could be pretty helpful. But also, I found in my life that if I just set a goal and I don't really think too much about it and I don't pray about it, then I definitely am going to fizzle out.
Yes, having a reason. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Praying about it is very important. And we were talking before the podcast, so I'm stealing your sentence. God has to help you with it to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to just do it by yourself.
Right.
We're human, we're weak at the end of the day, and we rely on God to help us do our things.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, you can only, quote unquote, pull yourself up by your bootstraps for so long. Like you can try and try and try, and then eventually you're just going to get tired and fall off the wagon, so to speak. So I really do believe that it has to be God working in you to create a new habit. But even the word habit, I'm hesitant to use. Does that word give you any issues or problems?
Well, not really. It might just be because I don't fully understand the meaning of it. English as a second language.
Yeah. Well, for me, habits, I think of habits as being closely tied to behaviors, just behaviors.
Okay.
And I feel like, of course, God is concerned with our actions, but I think God is more concerned with our heart behind things.
Yes.
And so if we're just making a new habit to look better or to be more productive or whatever, then I don't know that that's the best reason. And I don't know that that's really the best way that we should go about setting a New Year's resolution. Because if we want to truly get better at things and like be better people, then I think we've got to ask God to help us change.
Yes,
and
definitely.
Start basically from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we do to successfully set New Year's resolutions? I know people are going to hear this after they've probably already set them after the new year, but maybe if somebody wants to revisit the ones that they've already set, what can they do differently to set them in a better way?
Yeah, so here's the deal, which I think I'm not an expert on setting goals. I only succeeded with one goal, but I can tell you about it. One, make your goal realistic. Don't make a New Year resolution that is impossible. For example, I don't read books, which sounds weird to say on a microphone. I do read, but I don't sit down and read and enjoy reading. I read in a different way, I'm going to say. So I'm not going to say my New Year resolution would be finishing 20 books this year.
Yeah.
Because if I finished one book, that would be like a...
Victory?
Well, yeah, a huge victory for me.
I would be really proud.
Yeah. I do read other kind of texts and things, but not like a novel or a book that people usually sit down and read while drinking coffee or something like that.
Yeah, you do love learning. And so I feel like you love new information.
I do.
But it is more online and stuff like that, which is not bad, but it is different than sitting down and reading a physical book.
True. So number one, make it realistic.
Okay.
Number two, your heart behind this resolution. Why are you doing this? Are you doing it to impress humans? Are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for the glory of God? Those will give you different results. If you're trying to impress a person, let's say you're dating someone and you want to be this cool guy or cool gal who go on a morning walk every single day or a morning run because the person you're dating just happened to be a runner or happened to be someone involved in some kind of walking long distance, you're not going to last long because at one point you would feel like they're not maybe paying attention to you or your whole thing will be focused toward them. So if anything happened between you and them, for example, you broke up if you were already dating, or if you're trying to get in a relationship with them and they rejected you, then that thing will fizzle out. You're not going to stick to it. So if you're doing it for someone else, it's not going to work as well as if it's for yourself and for the glory of God.
Yeah. Wow. I totally agree. And I think too that what God initiates, he sustains. So he can help you sustain that. And there's actually a verse in Philippians that talks about that. I'm not going to quote it exactly right, but paraphrase, he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. So I do think that, if he's the one that starts it and gives you the idea, then it's more helpful than if you just sit around and think, oh, what's going to get this person's attention? All right. So far we have do things for the glory of God.
Yes.
And also, I think I might have forgotten the first thing you said.
The first thing I said, make it realistic.
Set a realistic goal. So don't overestimate your abilities.
Yes.
Not saying to limit yourself, but like you gave the example with reading. If you don't read normally, then you're probably not going to read 20 or 50 books in the next year.
Yes.
So set a realistic goal, do it for the glory of God, check your heart behind it. And do you have any other advice?
Yes. The last one is about your schedule. I want to say fit it in your schedule, but a better way to put it is, do you have time for it in your schedule or are you going to replace something else? For example, let's take the running again. The reason I'm using running as a bad example is because I hate running, except when I'm running away from something.
Oh my gosh.
At that point, I love running so much. But
you have been nice enough to go on some runs with me before.
I have, yeah. And I did pretty well, I would say.
For not being a runner, yeah.
The thing is, I will hike a mountain and I would be fine. I wouldn't be short in breath, but I can't run. It's like, I'm not built for running. I'm
You
built for
actually
hiking.
are very fast, though. It's just the endurance
Yeah.
that gets you.
The short distance. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a sprinter and I'm a long distance or whatever that's called.
Yeah. So back to it. If it's going to be something new, you would need to have time in the day to do it.
Mhm.
If your schedule is very busy already, you might have to drop something to fit it in.
Yeah.
Or you will have to find time of the day. For example, you are not a morning person and you want to start running. You'll be like, all right, I'm going to start waking at 5 a.m. So I have enough time to run, take a shower, go to work. Well, you're not introducing one thing. Now you're introducing two things. You're starting a new habit of being a morning person and a new habit of being a runner.
Yeah.
So which one do you want to focus on? Maybe start with being a morning person because it's hard to be a morning person if you're not a morning person. I'm not a morning person, but because of my job, I have to wake up at 6 a.m.
You wake up before 6.
Actually, no, yeah. I wake up at 5 something.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. Like, I drag myself, and if I think that I'm not going to be too late today, I would, like, sleep. And I overslept a couple times. Yeah. But thanks God that my place of work are really nice, and
they understand you have a long commute.
Yeah. So make sure your hobby will not overwork your schedule, or just like you wouldn't have time in your schedule for it. Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, so
to
being
keep in mind.
strategic, basically, about when you do things. And my sister told me when I was young, because I was probably, again, like 10 or 11, and I wanted to do a scrapbook. And I was telling her I was too busy to do a scrapbook, which I don't know what I was doing. But she said, and she's 11 years older than I am, so she was in her 20s. She was like, well, you have to make time for things that are important. So I've always remembered that, like, if something's truly important, you have to make time in your schedule for it. You're not going to just look up and be like, oh, I have all this free time. Let me go do this thing. So you do have to be intentional. Maybe that's what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Be intentional and strategic about the new goals that you have set in the presence of God.
Yeah. And sometimes you will have free times. Like, I can remember some days where I was just bored out of my mind, but I wouldn't want to do anything. Like, I'm bored. I would just rather sit down on the couch being bored than stand up, go outside and do something fun or build something or work on something or even play a game. I'm like that bored that I don't want to do anything.
Wow.
So it would take a discipline to introduce a new thing.
Yeah.
Because you would feel like, oh, I don't want to do it today because you're not used to it. But eventually you will get used to it and it will become a muscle memory where you would naturally do it.
Yeah. I've heard, and I don't know if this is correct still, but I've heard a few years ago that it takes 21 days to form a habit.
Yes.
So if you do something consistently for 21 days, then it won't be as difficult after that point.
Yeah, but if you dropped it after 21 days, you might as well erase the whole thing.
Yeah.
So you can't just do 21 days and then take a month break and then go back to it. It's not going to be the same.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I want to stop you right there because some people are going to fall off the wagon and some people are going to make it past the 21 days and then they're going to be like, oh no, I missed a day, or even within the first 21 days. And then they're going to be like, well, I guess I just won't do that again this year. So what do they do in that case?
Well, if you miss a day, it's fine. I mean, God's grace is there.
Yeah.
You should have grace for yourself too.
Right.
So missing a day, like you're not on a payroll for this hobby, I hope. I mean, if you're on a payroll, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
So missing a day is fine as long as you keep being consistent. If you missed a whole week, then you would probably need to reevaluate the goal. Be like, is this really something I want to do or not? Or it might be something you really need help with.
Yeah.
For example, if you have some addiction or some problems and you're trying to get over it as part of your New Year resolution, it might not be something you're able to do it by yourself. It's good to go and seek professional help.
Right.
There is a lot of people who would help you, a lot of professional people who know what they are doing and will teach you the right way to do it.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Okay, so when you were talking about that, it made me think there's got to be a fine line between legalism and grace. So we want to implement these new habits, but we don't want to be so focused on our behaviors and the habits that we miss the heart behind it. But we don't want to be too lenient and fall too much into the grace category where, oh, it doesn't matter, or, we just don't follow through. So how do we strike that balance?
So I would say a 50-50 is a good place. And again, I'm not a psychologist or someone who know what he's saying, I'm just talking based on experience.
Yeah.
So take my words with a grain of salt and maybe a little bit of pepper too.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if that actually makes sense or it's a funny
That's
joke.
a dad joke.
Yeah, a dad joke. That's right. So I would say like 50-50. 50% grace, 50% legalism, where you just get it right half of the times. Like if you get it right 50% of the time, it's good. We were reading something about raising kids, and this is coming up here now.
Yeah.
It said if you do it 50% right, your kids are going to grow up fine.
Yeah, it did say that. I was reading a book called The Worry-Free Parent by Sissy Goff, and it was talking about attachment theory. And it said it was in a chapter that was written for perfectionist parents. And so it was talking to people who really do have a problem always wanting everything to be perfect and giving 110% and being very hard on themselves when things go wrong or they mess up. And so it did cite a study, and I don't remember the name of the study, but the study said in terms of attachment, if you get it right, quote unquote, 50% of the time, then you have a positive impact on your child. So that's where that advice came from.
Yeah, and I would say it works on other things too. Because this is something I tell my students all the time. I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but whenever it comes to schoolwork, I tell them turning in something will get you some point way better than turning in nothing, which will get you a 0. Yes, I don't want you to turn garbage work, but hey, that garbage work might give you 20% and instead of the 0. And that 20% might be the point you need to pass the class. Which is like, I'm not advocating for you to do the bare minimum, but the bare minimum sometimes is better than nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Putting forth a little effort. That reminds me of something another friend said one time, that done is better than perfect. So sometimes you spend so much time doing something and you nitpick it, and then the due date comes and goes and you haven't turned it in, or you're working down to the wire, or you just give up completely because it's not perfect. So it is better sometimes just to, put forth your effort and then leave the rest up to
God. Well, we were also reading a book. I was listening to it again. I don't read. I listen to audiobooks. The Habit of the Household.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
It's talking about how to shape and create a healthy habit for your household. So like the kids grow up right and you are living basically in a peaceful life at home. And one of the big takeaway I got from the book is as long as you're consistent, no matter how good it is. Like for example, they were talking about praying before lunch or before dinner. The prayer doesn't have to sound perfect. It doesn't have to sound nice. It doesn't have to be blah, blah, blah. As long as you do it, the kids are going to scream. The kids are going to do A, B, and C. The kids might not want to participate. But if you kept pushing through it, eventually everyone will get used to it. And he used the example in the book that his kids eventually were like, oh, can I pray today? Because just like kept
over
building
time.
up over time. Yes. And that would happen to yourself. Like if you are a person and yourself is the second person. So you are a person and yourself is the other person. And you're the person who wants to start a new habit, and your other self or your other person, which is you at the same time, is the person you're trying to convince to stick with this habit.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. It's like the flesh,
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Your spirit and your flesh. Right. Your spirit wants to start a habit, and your flesh need to be convinced to stick with this habit. Yes. So if your spirit kept doing the habit, even if it wasn't perfect, like the bare minimum, you want to do the running every morning, run to your mailbox and run back. That's running. And tomorrow run to your neighbor mailbox and then run back. If you woke up one day, you really don't want to run at all, run to the bathroom and then run back to bed. But just like do something, and that eventually will help you getting over that big hump, I guess, at the beginning of it. And then the rest would not be, it would be smooth sail, but with like rocky smooth sail. It's not going to be just easy, but it would be doable.
Rocky smooth sails. I like it. That also makes me think of something I think I read it on a running website about how this woman made herself, if she didn't want to go on a run that day, she gave herself the permission after 15 minutes of the run. If she was absolutely miserable still, she would just go back home. And she said that she would give herself the permission, but she actually never stopped to run early, because once she got started and once she got going, she actually enjoyed it. So sometimes starting is the hardest part.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's always the hardest part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually very insightful. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So do you have any New Year's resolutions for this year?
Yes, I actually have one.
Okay.
I'm going to read a book.
I'm so proud. You want to tell us the book?
So this is the funny thing about me before I tell you about the book. I used to actually sit down and read when I was in high school.
But did you actually sit down and read a book cover to cover?
Yes, I did it once in high school.
Once?
It was cover to cover.
How big was the book?
It was pretty big. It was like
Did it take you all of high school to read it?
Pretty much. But here's the thing. Well, not like a 1 year of my high school. So what happened? Like my high school was amazing.
It was. I've seen it. It was absolutely beautiful.
And there was a public library basically attached to the school, and it was amazing. Like the lighting was amazing. The environment was amazing. They even had a tiny waterfall in it.
Yeah, they did in that courtyard.
In that courtyard. So there is one seat that looks directly to the courtyard, to the waterfall, and there is a tree next to it, and an air vent, basically an AC that is coming from the ground, pushing up.
And this is in the Middle East. So you need the air vent.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100 and something every single day in the summer, so you can't survive without AC. So I would go there, pick up my book, and read it. And spend basically the whole, it's really not afternoon. It was basically, let's say sunset is at 6, and I would go there around 5, and I would read it until 6. And then I would close the book and go back to my dorm.
So an hour of reading a day.
About an hour of reading a day. And
That's
I was
nice.
very, I loved the topic. It was about Gog and Magog in English and Arabic. If you're not familiar with it, I don't know why you're listening to this. Probably you shouldn't be listening to this anyway. It's Ya'juj wa Ma'juj. It's, depends on your belief system. Some people who don't believe, they think of them as mythical creatures, but then people from the Islamic Judaism and Christian faith, or I would say most people from Islamic Judaism and Christian faith, believe of them as being an actual creature / humans who live in the earth. So yeah, that book was talking about their origin and how they come to be and where they are and all the things.
Oh,
so it was a very interesting topic.
Yeah. So yeah, you're going to pick up that old habit of reading one book in 4 years.
Yeah. So this time I'm reading a book called Peace to End All Peace by David something. I don't remember his last name.
It started with an F, but I don't remember either.
The book is on the other side of the house and I'm not going to go get it. This book, I saw a lot of book reviews about it. There is a guy who had over 3 hours of him going through the book with real life example and talking about how it is. This book basically talks about the era after World War I or during World War I and right before World War II, where how the Western world reshaped the Middle East and how they divided the border and the whole thing. And it's something I'm really interested in because 1, I'm from the Middle East, and 2, it's like the way, in my belief, that the way they did the border is purposely to cause as much trouble and conflict as possible. And this book kind of support that ideology too. And it also talks about how people who are kind of insignificant, who did not have any power, they managed to play big powers and convince them that they actually had power. Like one guy in Turkey who convinced the British that he was actually a leader of some kind of revolt and something. Yeah, so there is a lot of interesting historical things on it. And this book is not from the Middle Eastern perspective. This is from the Western perspective. I feel like I'm doing a book review right now.
Well, maybe you are. You haven't read the book yet.
I haven't, but yeah, I'm talking about what I learned from the reviews. So it's good to see a perspective of the Middle Eastern history from the other side, not from my side.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're going to read that. I mean, I'm excited for you to read a book, but I'm excited for you to read something that is from a different perspective than you might have grown up hearing. It just shows how open-minded you are. That's something I really like about you. You're welcome. Okay. Well, to wrap up, I just want to ask one more question. Actually, 2 more questions, but the last main question is going to be, how does the freedom that we have from God allow us to do new things, like set new resolutions?
So God freedom comes with grace. And because we have grace from God, we have options to fail and try again and fail and try again because we're not perfect. We're human at the end of the day.
And he knows that because he made us.
Yep. And he knows that because he made us. But that doesn't mean you just go and like sin and do everything bad and be like, oh, I'm just a human. No, it means like you're going to make mistakes because you're a human. You're not perfect, but you shouldn't be consistent with it. And that's back to habits. So God gave us a freedom and grace. We make mistakes, but we should correct those mistakes and create new healthy habits.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add to that is just to ask God for help in moments of weakness, and even in moments where you feel very strong and like you're crushing it. You need to keep relying on God for help. And that way you can avoid pride and he can keep you on track with things.
Yeah. Pride is a whole another problem.
Yeah, we could talk about that in a whole nother episode, I think. So I really appreciate you sitting down and taking the time to talk with me. This was fun.
You're welcome.
And to close, I want to ask one last question. How will you use your God-given freedom today? And like the very first question I asked you, you can take this any way you want, so it can be big or small.
So how will I use it today? I mean, today is the beginning of the year, right? So I'm definitely going to start my habit and read at least a page of that book.
Okay.
Hopefully more.
Yeah.
But hopefully not less.
Yeah.
That's like, I'm going to put it as a minimum requirement. It's a 600-page book.
Yeah, it's at least 600 pages.
Yeah. So if I didn't read 2 pages a day, I won't finish it this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually just remembered another question I was going to ask you. Is it okay if we go back? Okay. Do you have a word for this year? You know how some people get a word for the new year?
Yeah. I had one and I forgot it.
It's okay if you don't have one.
Yeah. No, we talked about it before and I had one. We said a family word.
We did say a family word. Unity.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. We said unity as a family word. I don't have a word for myself now.
A personal one.
I have not thought about that.
I actually don't either. So maybe we just need a family one. But I'm really excited because I'm just going to admit that I can be very selfish and I can think about what I want to get done and what I want to accomplish in our house. And that's not how it should be done. So I think thinking of unity for me is going to be really good for our family because it's going to make me stop and think about how is this affecting our whole family versus just me, and what can I do to serve our family instead of just thinking about serving myself.
And think I also have to do the same thing. Sometimes I just want to play a game, or I just want to go and build something in the middle of the day. Like one year, it was her birthday and I decided to bake a bread totally unrelated to her birthday. And instead of spending the day with her on her birthday, doing things with her, I was in the kitchen baking a bread.
Not baking a birthday cake.
Not
baking
a birthday cake.
This really extravagant cloud bread. Is that what it was called?
Yeah,
Japanese.
something like that.
Yeah, that was my first birthday married.
Yep.
And it was not the best one.
No.
But you've redeemed yourself for sure.
I hope I did.
Yeah, you did. I forgive you.
Thank you.
No problem. Anytime. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the Miraculous Freedom Podcast, feel free to leave a review and share it with a friend. A new episode will release the first Tuesday of each month, but be sure you follow and subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any of our bonus episodes. Next month, we'll get to hear from my friend Jessica McCraney about what it means to be truly loved, red flags in dating, and how the church can better support singles. Until then, you can find me on Instagram at Miraculous Freedom or on our website, miraculousfreedom.com. I hope you experience the miraculous freedom that Christ has offered you today and that you go tell someone else about it.